not good. Feels bad. Now I know everybody in Galaxy of Heroes, big man. People say, Arnold, we big mad, what do we do? Well, before we talk about why big mad, we need to talk about how to solve big mad. So join with me, your daily prescriptional intake of Coliseum. Everyone, before we get too carried away and how Galaxy Heroes is more expensive, which means it's another day that ends in Y potentially, I need you to go to the Coliseum right now. Please hit auto, and please, if you can, take deep breaths with me as you inhale the power of all your era materials, your loan materials. Oh, can you feel the comfort, the calming thoughts of Coliseum going from the tips of your head all the way to the little toesy woesies? That's right, everyone. Do you feel better now? Good. Awesome. Because we got to talk about a topic that I've been putting off for a little bit. We've had so much going on this week with the big update, this and that, Lightspeed tokens, this. Oh my gosh, look at all these Zetas we can get. Oh man, we got to talk about Andor, but we didn't talk about the boogeyman that has been lurking in the shadows that we kind of saw right before the turn of the new era. And that is, it appears to be, the cost of getting your characters up is going to be a little bit higher. More importantly, if you're someone that likes to try to spend some crystals to up the air level to get you a bit of a head start over others, well, that is going to be becoming a lot more difficult than before.
Hey, are you going to pay for that?
Talk to the hand.
Story aside, this team has been carrying me in Coliseum. I have a feeling, we're still early on. I have a feeling this team with Mando, Cara Dune, Drogon, and I've been kind of replacing Cad Bane with some other people once in a while, depending on the boss, for example. But Cad Bane's been goated. So if you're still looking for the go-to team, this has been more or less working for pretty much every single boss. I'm staying top 50 at 250 on my free-to-play account. On my main account, I could probably get some more points, and I'll play it on manual later to squeeze out a little bit more damage. But being able to get some good ranks on the main account. So quick little pause there, but that's not why we're here. We understand where this is coming from now that we're seeing the update, but people are noticing that to get the era materials, it got way more expensive coming from the previous era of Anniversary as well as Andor. And they sort of told us, the developers that these changes were going to come, but you don't really feel the impact until it's finally in game. And what we're talking about is the Era Store shenanigans. Now, when you go to the Era Store, I was never like this. I mean, well, besides Era of Anniversary, where we were trying to figure out what the heck was going on, but come Era of Andor, I would not go out and buy these materials. Here's my thing, people. I've come to the conclusion, I can't control Galaxies, but I can control what I do. And this game gives you way too many reasons to get upset, and it's outside of your control. So we got to find that inner zen within us. And I don't know, all that other mumbo jumbo stuff here. We're going to have greater difficulties trying to get these era materials via crystals, because they essentially tripled how much these are. And I think there's a reason, as we're going to go over, but just for a little bit of reference, here's where they were before. Beforehand, these were 299 crystals for the era 1 through 15 currencies or materials. I don't know. Again, still blows my mind to be at 5 trillion currencies for these things, but that's a whole other thing. Putting that aside for the moment. And now, well, they essentially tripled it, which for people, especially more in the free-to-play end, a lot of free-to-play players in previous eras, they would buy at least a few of these with crystals. Again, you don't need to be paid to win to get these. You're just making sacrifice with your crystal. People would use this to try to maybe, get ahead a few more levels. Because if you spend 299 crystals and you can maybe get a few more levels ahead inside a Coliseum, well, especially nowadays, you'll be able to eke out more era currency as a result. So everyone's going to be happy if they do that. Yay! Well, now the problem is they've made that a much more difficult proposition by tripling it. Whereas before you could have bought 3 packs, now you only can buy 1 pack. And I think we kind of have the reason why they're doing this increase, despite them not really explicitly telling us that they're going to be increasing the cost of materials. And I think there's going to be, again, a greater, I guess, impact, a greater situation, especially as we move farther into the era, moving towards Radha's unlock. But again, we'll get to that in a moment. But I want to jog our memories for a second. We go over to the community post here that they did a couple weeks ago on 427. They did tell us this: era level material bundles will roll out over time rather than being available all at once in an effort to preserve progression, pacing, while still providing a competitive advantage or spending advantage.
I smell profit.
Whatever, I'm not sure what they're trying to get at. That might be a misspelling. I don't remember spending advantage being spelled competitive advantage, but I digress. So what I'm basically getting here, before they were giving whales, krakens, spenders of all varieties the opportunity to really go as, a much farther into the era, or the era leveling, I should say. Well, now they sort of put a leash on that. So if they're putting a leash on the whales, krakens, spenders, well, they're also going to put a leash on the free-to-play players, and that's by making the crystal cost a lot higher. So I guess now this sentence makes a bit more sense when we try to connect it to the situation of them making this more expensive for these early era levels. So that way, I will say this before we, I guess, kind of move too much farther in this video. I appreciate that they sort of simplified the era store for much different reasons, because I remember when I first played at the Era of Anniversary, and again, I've been playing this game for 10 years. Again, not too much stuff catches me off guard, and I was like, what are all these materials here? It was so confusing. So when you're rolling it out slower over time, you have less, I guess, information to pull in. You have less materials. You got to try to figure out and balance. You just know I got to focus on these materials. So I appreciate they've added a bit of simplicity when it comes to that. The only downside that comes with that, then, that people are, wanting to chat more about is the fact that, well, the advantage that you were trying to get with the crystals, they took that away. And that's the only thing I can think of, is that, sort of relatively speaking, by pulling the spenders back because they're not giving them all these different air packs to get much farther into the air level progression. Because remember, day one, when I got Stormtrooper Luke, I was able to get to, and again, it wasn't even fully maxed out. What did we get to, like a 40, 50, something like that for Luke? It turned into a massive money pit. It did not feel good, especially then when we did not have the transparency at all. We're still lacking a bit of transparency of this, but there was even less so back then. And I realized it was just this massive money pit on day one. I'm glad that they essentially removed that. You can't get into that massive money pit, at least as far as I can see here. So I appreciate at least that aspect of it. But the downside is, as I said several times now, that they took away the option for free-to-play players to get ahead. So I'm guessing it's a relativity, I suppose. If they're pulling all the spenders back, if they didn't change this, then that means why would someone want to spend money on the air levels? They're trying, in my, I guess, view, they're trying to maintain the incentive to spend money so you get ahead, and reducing the incentive for free-to-play players to try to get ahead, because it's going to drain into a lot of their crystals, because 900 crystals, that adds up to quite a lot. If you're buying that 3 times in a row, that's almost 2,700 crystals, and at that point, free-to-play players might be like, I'm out, bro. So they're taking away the opportunities via crystal spending to try to get ahead. And I think what they're, again, speculation, I think what they're starting to pivot towards is the loaned unit levels. That may be the new source of monetization, and that is much more hard-gated via spending, because you have to buy certain packs that sort of have this as an add-on bonus. You can't buy these via crystals. So I think there's going to be a lot of, I guess, a big learning experience coming with this Coliseum, but my suspicion is they're pulling back ways of getting the air materials and starting to use loaned units as a new form of monetization and progression, which is going to be a lot more difficult to get a hold of. Ooh, not good. Feels bad. But before the Era of Anniversary started, and we're coming towards the end of the Era of Andor, my concern was, well, look at all these brand new era levels they added. They added 40 era levels to these characters now, which means, Well, we go all the way to 135. My brain hurts seeing all these different currencies. There are a lot more materials needed to get to these points. Now, I'm not going to quite ring the alarm bells yet. This is more, you know, how there's a tornado watch and a tornado warning. Very different thing. We're kind of on watch right now. I think that's the one, right? Yeah, we're on watch. We're not 100% sure what's going on, but there's signs that something could be coming here. My concern is this going to be more expensive getting these characters? Because again, we don't quite know, especially going from before where previously you would need an era level 85 character to unlock the legendary. Well, now you're going to need much higher levels in order to get to. I think they said, what was it? Let's go back. Make sure we get it from the horse's mouth before I say anything else. Air level 131. Allegedly. Maybe subject to change. Who the heck knows? The problem is, what is it going to cost to get to that level? Because, well, it was about $20 to get a character from level 80 to 85. Where is the point that we hit where it's like, oh, we got to spend money, and how much of that? This was an image made by Yotter. And also, Troopers on Break sent it to me. Shout out. As you can see here, look at this. This was before. It was 750 of these or 1,200 of these. I don't know. And now it's essentially almost over double to get to, what was that? Air level 130. 2,750 of these. I don't know. These little cake looking things here. So the question comes down to, at the end of the day, what's the income going to be looking like for these characters? Because remember, the marquee events, sort of as the era goes along, they sort of ramp up the rewards as you kind of get closer and closer and closer to the end of it. So that's why I'm saying I'm on watch right now, not a full-blown warning, because, well, maybe they're going to give us more materials as we're going through these marquee events. The problem is, again, there is just so many currencies that juggle around. It's really hard to know until you get a little bit closer. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, I don't know, maybe it's just I've come to peace with Coliseum. I've come to peace with the era stuff. And again, I focus on what can I do? I can just have more fun, screw around with the game. That's what I can do because, you know, yeah, I'm not a fan of everything with the era system. I'm not a fan of everything with Coliseum. But at the end of the day, let's be real. I'm saving, what is it, about $1,000 in era because there's no point in spending characters. That's an upside. People are getting more Lightspeed tokens wherever you might be on the spectrum because they tripled the rewards. Okay, that's pretty nifty. So getting more Lightspeed tokens in your roster, that's nice. People being able to get, 4 or 5 star legendaries, you know, maybe not, they're not gonna have full power viability, but that's still awesome to get nonetheless. People being able to walk out of an era with Gear 12 characters by basically just showing up and just doing the bare minimum, that's awesome. So I don't know, maybe it's one of those things where I'm kind of waiting to see how the rest of the era sort of pans out, but I just want to make sure we bring it up, my understanding as to why they decided to triple the cost of these packs right here, because even though it wasn't something for me, because my rule of thumb after the era of Anniversary was like, I just don't want to put anything into this, I'm just going to go ride the wave, get what I'm supposed to get for just showing up essentially, and then, all right, cool. I just, you guys know, Coliseum, we also call it the auction house, Coliseum. So it's just at the end of the day, it's just people to spend money, try to outspend one another. And I'm just going to kind of just take the piece around, just kind of go as I will. But it does suck at the end of the day for those that did want to, or for those that did engage with this, that they took away this option from you to try to get those few ranks ahead of you. And this is why I feel like I'm starting to see also a lot of comments regarding to how they're feeling like they're falling behind in Coliseum now. It's hard to say where it's coming from because keep in mind, every area you're going to be put into a different shard, and well, every shard is going to vary. You might be in a more competitive shard where you have more engaged players, maybe people that are buying those era packs, maybe people that are whaling a lot more on the characters and therefore getting more era materials, and you might be, again, in some shards that are the complete inverse of that. So that's why it's hard to say, if you do this strategy, you're guaranteed this rank because there's so many variables across different shards. But also, I think we got to juggle the fact that because of how the era has changed, getting access to these era materials, making it harder for spenders and free-to-play players, maybe that has an impact on it. And also, we got to still juggle around that new aspect of the loaned units, which, by the way, if you haven't noticed, it seems like they give an additional 3 in your inbox every single day. So everyone's kind of rising at a similar-ish rate. And of course, we talked about the spending ways of doing so. So there are a lot of factors going on. sort of impacting people's Coliseum experience. But anyways, thought I'd put it out there. Again, this is just a warning. Things might get, we might just be seeing the tip of the iceberg when it comes to things being a little bit, maybe that's an understatement, more expensive in Galaxy of Heroes. But anyways, that's going to be all for today. Remember, if you ever are feeling stressed out about Galaxy Heroes, we have the ultimate therapeutic game mode, Coliseum. Leave a like if you feel better. Leave a like if you don't feel better about the situation. And you know what? I'm going to sweeten the deal. I'm going to go ahead and dance with the Joe Taz for the outro. You ready for it? Here we go. Like the video. Subscribe. Hey, have you checked out this video right here? Yeah, go click it. It's a good time. Peace.